You're listening to Stories to Create with your host, Cornell Bunting. Author, motivational speaker, and founder of EHAS each episode. Cornell sits down with inspiring voices to uncover the stories that shape who we are and who we're becoming. Get ready to listen, learn, and be inspired. The show starts now.
Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of Stories to Create podcast right here at EHAS Club. We've been telling stories and we've having our guests go back to the early years. And it's, when I tell you guys, it's been a joy with all the different guests that's been on the show. But I got to tell you guys, man, I'm excited because today's guest, he is the founder of 7 Twincutz barbershop. He also has Andis Clippers Global Educator, which is a beautiful thing. So right now, what I would like for you guys to do is join me in welcoming Mr. Sean Casey.
What's up, man? Thank you for having me.
Man, listen. This is beautiful. So I want you guys to know today in the space in EHAS Club, we have our VP of EHAS, Mr. Ryan Eisenhower.
How's everybody doing? Happy to finally be here. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, it's been a long time coming, people. Busy man. So, this is good, man. Dude, it's been a minute. It's been a minute, man. The last time we hang out with kids, how much years was that?
It's going to be, I want to say right before pandemic. So end of 2018.
Yeah.
Early 2019.
Yeah.
Maybe 2019.
Yeah, man. That was beautiful. So, before we dive into current, we want to take our listeners back.
Okay.
To Sean, and as we talk, definitely gonna have Ryan be jumping in here and there as well. But I want to go back, man, to the growing up years.
Okay.
The younger years.
Okay.
What would you call that, Ryan? Elementary.
Your formative years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Back in New York, back in Manhattan.
Yeah, so back in New York, I was raised by my grandparents. I lost my mother at 9 months.
Whoa.
Yeah, so my grandparents took me in. We're talking late 70s.
Yeah.
She was a model.
Okay.
And my dad was in the hair industry as well.
Okay.
Studio 54.
What?
Drugs were heavy back in that time. Party and drugs. Unfortunately, my mother had like a wild night. Ended in she passed away from overdosing one day.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if anything, it's like I never hold on to it because my grandparents were amazing people and they took me in with a lot of love. And my father was amazing too. Like he worked a lot. So it was just I would have a little bit more of a home structure.
Okay.
Same with my grandparents and my father. So my relationship with my father those early years were like, every weekend. And then, when there was kind of my grandparents moved to Florida, and that type of thing, I would see my dad a little bit, maybe a few times out of the year and stuff. But we got a great relationship now. But them early years was, it was good.
Yeah.
I had loving parents, but I was wild.
Yeah.
I was a really wild kid.
Okay.
I just, always looked to get into.
So can I ask you, when something like that happens to you and you're coming up, you had just mentioned to me that growing up in New York,
right.
You may have gotten a little bit of trouble, right? You and your friends might have been running around sticking your nose where it shouldn't have been.
For sure.
Did losing your mother like that at an early age, how did that impact? Did that impact your perspective on getting involved with drugs or getting in trouble or anything like that?
So for whatever reason in my life, I never dealt with hard drugs. I never did a hard drug. So I was actually born. When I was born, I was like addicted to heroin at birth.
Wow.
Because my mother was just kind of, during that time, she was. Even when she was, my grandmother was telling me like when she was in labor, they wouldn't give her any type of anesthesia and stuff because they would have lost me as a kid.
Wow.
So I was born with baby blue syndrome. So I wasn't really even supposed to make it. So I came out, everything was healthy, 9 months, unfortunately, amazing person though, because all the stories I heard from everybody about her, she was definitely like a hippie of the 70s.
Yeah.
I feel like my soul is, 70s child's.
Yeah.
Like in my I got a record player at home. All the stuff I listen to is like all 70 vibes. It's just my whole feeling. I must have really got that from her. Just the whole, even the rebellious way of thinking and stuff, and just it'd be interesting to have her and have those conversations. I always said if there was one person in my life that I could ever meet, would be her, because I think it's just having that relationship, raising with my grandparents, there's that age separation, right? They know things from a different era,
right?
Where she would have been like 24 years older than me, right. So if for like my first relationship or just any challenge, it would have been a little bit
out of touch,
right? I felt like it was always a little bit out of touch. Like I would have that sports talk with my grandfather, my grandmother. She's, she moved here in the 50s from Tripoli.
From Tripoli?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she moved over here. So she's just, first generation from coming from such a wild country. Like she grew up with the Gaddafis. Like you got stories where like they were both children together and seeing him come into power. And then she moved with the family and moved to New York. And then she met my grandfather over here. And just interesting, dope stories.
Do you think the way your mother passed away, did that affect the way your grandparents raised you or had a hand on you?
Completely. I always wondered why they were probably so strong on what I was doing and where I was going, who I'm hanging with. And, I felt like this overbearing, strict...
which you probably hated at the time.
Which was, because then I was naturally like, I'm such an independent person and such, which caused a lot of rebellion. So anytime I've had some kind of strict laws on me, makes me act more rebellious. So I think right around that middle school years is where it was just like, I need to get out. I need to do things. I need to just, have fun.
Right.
And little by little, I think it's just your surrounding as well. Like, I think I wasn't too motivated in school. I was, there's two types of learners. There's a creative and there's an adaptive.
Right.
And I believe the system is built for adaptive learners. So,
right.
And especially being a kid from the 80s and into the 90s.
You say system education or just like the Matrix, like
the Matrix
the whole
in
system.
general. So I think like the school system is, now I think it's different. We see them in a digital world. So we can see there's a lot of success without the traditional ways, but also being raised by my grandparents is like, do great in school, get the scholarship, go to college, get the job.
Yeah.
And it's like, that wasn't for me. I literally was daydreaming. I was held back in first grade for daydreaming. And, I just wasn't a good student. I was bored. Anything I apply myself in, I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I'm great at. But what doesn't inspire me, I have no interest in.
Okay.
So there's a big gap between understanding adaptive learner and creative learners, which even stems back to the family, because you can hear through your door when your door is closed, the parents at home, and if it's not just me, I think it's many parents, they'll say, oh, what's wrong with him, or why he doesn't get it, or the teacher, the teacher saying, oh, he's just not getting it and he needs to try this, and the parents at home, why are you failing at these grades? Because everything is built for school,
right?
But at the same time, there's that creatives, which we spoke about a little bit before the podcast, where working with your hands, there's so many trade schools that you can get into and be so successful at, but they don't teach that in school, right? It's like learn your ABCs.
Which is still education. It's just education outside of the system or the matrix, right?
Right.
So it wasn't that you weren't going to get educated; you just had to have something that interested you, and you got a little bit of a kick in the butt in high school too, right? Something or someone came along
that forced you there. So I think the time I got into high school, I was like, so in like middle school, like I got in a little trouble with the law, hanging out with some friends, and did a little juvenile, issues, and I remember like, man, disappointing my grandmother, my grandparents so much. I was like, this is not the move. But still, like I was like, all right, I'm still trying to do things without getting caught.
Right.
And I was just getting in the direction where I just did the minimum to pass high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting into my senior year and dating a girl, and I'm like, she got pregnant. And that was reality. It was the scariest moment of my life. I'm like, wow, I don't even know what I'm doing in my life. Where am I going? There's not a college. Obviously I don't think I'm going to college.
Right.
Man, I'm like working at a movie theater on the weekends, and I'm delivering bagels during the daytime after school, and I'm working at like Hertz Rent-A-Car, vacuuming cars at nighttime. I'm like, I'm a kid. I'm a kid myself. I'm immature myself. I'm not thinking then, but it was scary.
So you had like 3-4 jobs?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of Jamaican, bro.
They don't make bagels down there like they do up there.
No,
right?
so my grandparents. So my story is I lived in New York till I was 13 years old. My grandparents moved to Florida 93, 92, 93.
Okay.
I moved with them. I went to a couple of years of middle school here.
Yeah.
I went to high school here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I moved back to New York, and that's when I moved with my father. That was the first time I had that relationship with my father.
Right.
So when I was going to high school here during my senior year, you get off early. They owned a deli.
Okay.
So my grandfather, he's Greek, had delis in New York, being from here, Greeks and delis go hand in hand, right? So his dad had a restaurant on 125th Street for, back in those early days. And then he had a deli out in Long Island for the long time. And then he brought that here. Yeah. So it was very successful. So I'd come off to work and I would just drive around and deliver sandwiches and stuff. So it was like sort of like a New York deli.
Right.
And when my son was born, I was probably in the worst place. I was either destined to like get myself killed or get arrested.
Yeah. And
my father called me up, and it was one of our realest conversations. He said, "What are you doing with your life? You got like a 4-month-old kid.
Yeah.
What is your plan?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" I'm like, "Be a barber."
Yeah.
And the only reason why I said being a barber was, I was one of those young guys with a beard already. Like I was in like 10th grade, I was already growing beard. So I had a little trimmer because the barbershop I'd go to, I could save money without them doing my beard.
Right.
And you're just in high school, so I don't have a lot of money. So I get a haircut, they would trim it up, and for me to maintain it, I would follow it.
Right.
The second thing I did realize that I had a passion watching them cut hair.
Yeah.
So I was sitting in the barbershop, and it was like you'd wait for a couple of hours. We'd go on the weekend, school's off. Everybody would show up on the Saturday, and you'd sit down in the shop for about a couple of hours. Everyone makes jokes. And it was just a fun time, but I was inspired, or I took a lot of interest onto the art of them cutting hair. So I'd watch them, and then I'd start doing it myself.
Yeah.
So also my dad was in the hair industry. He does hair color. So he didn't cut hair, but he made great money for himself. I was watching how he lives. I'm like, okay, wow, you're doing pretty good for yourself. Maybe there's some good money in hair. Yeah. So it was just one of those things. I was like, I'll be a barber.
Yeah.
So he said to me, he goes, well, you have to go to school for that.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And he says, I'll help you out. I'll get you into school. I'll pay for your barber college. And in New York, it's a lot different here, and it was a lot cheaper. Now like prices to go to school is
up there.
It's good money, but still better, more affordable than you going to college if that's not the option. Right. For like now, I think anywhere is between $11,000 to $18,000, and you do 10 months of school, and you got a license for you got a skill for the rest of your life. When I went to school, it was probably like about like $1,500 for 500 hours in New York, right? Yeah. So he helped me out. I moved with him for the first time in New York, and little did I know, I just really started loving it. I just was in school, and it's just a lot of passion behind it, and started to become really good. And I built up my name in New York, and I lived out there till 8-9 years. And then I moved back here to Florida because I was visiting back and forth when my son was born.
Right.
And I was visit him. And then out the blue, I think the noise and everything else just started frustrating me in New York. There was something in the air that was like, why is everything you're trying not quite working out?
Right.
And I felt there was a separation. I said, maybe I need to get a little bit closer to my son, and just kind of worked out. I came here.
Yeah.
And the difference between being such a fast city and being in such a rural town.
Right.
I was like, well, how can I make this work? See, if I stayed in New York, I'd probably freelance. And the way I like to work, I would probably be cutting the New York Knicks, the way I market and build relationships. But here, you're not going to do that.
Right.
And I said, well, okay, let me get in the shop, work for a few years, and let me start my own barbershop. And that's kind of the journey. So the blessing of me having a kid at such a young age was really like a kick in the ass that I wasn't ready for.
Right.
But the unconditional love and that push to force me to do something really brought the best out of me. Wow. So I always look at him as like he was a God's gift to really change my life.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Every young person carries a story of hope, of struggle, of dreams waiting to rise. But in too many underserved communities, those stories go unheard.
At ease Inc. Everyone has a story. We believe every voice deserves a chance through mentorship, empowering programs, and storytelling workshops. We help youth discover their purpose, strengthen their mindset, and build a future they can be proud of.
From classrooms in Jamaica to communities across Southwest Florida,
EHAS is changing lives,
one story at a time.
but we can't do it alone. Join us, become a mentor, volunteer, donate, help us fuel the next generation of leaders, creators, and change makers.
Visit EHAS.org today, because when you help a young person share their story, you help them change their world.
What was the longest hours you spent in a barbershop when you were observant?
When I actually was cutting hair?
No, observant.
Oh, observant, probably 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the craziest story?
Man, the jokes, man. The jokes. You got to have thick skin. It's different now. Right? Even my own shops, we kind of not as strong, but like, things have changed. But those times, you were talking about the 90s.
Yeah.
Guys would skip over you. It'd be 3 barbers out in this area. Actually, this was in Fort Myers. I'll plug them out. There was a place called Intrigue Barbershop on Fowler. It's not there anymore. I think they moved. But there was a guy named Sid, Tom, and Corey. Yeah. And they were the 3 barbers. It's not like now where there's a bunch of barbershops in the area. So they were the 3 guys. So if you didn't go to them,
you ain't getting that.
You're not getting a haircut, right?
Yeah.
So that was the haircut. It was like you would get a haircut. You would go into these like little salons, and one of my buddies in high school was like, I'd have this haircut that looked like Forrest Gump, and it was this heavy weight line in my hair. And he's like, "Yo, you got to go to this barbershop, the black barbershop, right, to get that good face."
Yeah, you got it to get the blurry fade, right?
Get the blurry face. So you go in there and you sit down, and I mean the jokes, and then they knew their buddies, so they would skip you, and you just have to sit there and you wait. What the hell am I going to say in high school? You're just going to stay quiet and wait your turn until they finally call you. And between the jokes and the haircut took about 30, 40 minutes per person.
Right.
But that'd get you in. But it was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah, I got to tell you, like, I told him just before the show started, Cornell, I don't think you were in the room, but in 20 years, I've had 3 people cut my hair.
Yeah.
And so much of it has to do with the camaraderie in the shop as opposed to, like, obviously it's a quality haircut, otherwise I wouldn't go.
Right.
But that like camaraderie in the atmosphere is like what keeps me coming back and not wanting to go to anybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that loyalty. So I think it's really cool that you highlighted, education, college might not have been it, but you picked up a skill and that allowed you to start a business.
Right.
I think a lot of kids miss that.
Yeah.
Right. I definitely want to hear more about how you started the business. I think that would be really cool to hear,
right?
Especially with having a child, because I think a lot of people don't realize when you have it, there's 3 things that you need to do to live above the poverty line. 99% chance. 1 is get a high school diploma. 2 is have a full-time job. 3, don't have a child before 21. So that's that 3rd one. You flunked on that one, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But you found a way to overcome that with that huge burden. I don't want to call children a burden, but
right.
Burden,
well,
so.
I mean, at 17 going into 18 years old, it definitely felt like a burden. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like I'm like, hey, I'm ready to be a dad, but it's so weird. No matter what's thrown in you in life, I preach it today to even guys that are starting in a barbershop. Don't play safe. Get that car. Get a little bit of that smart debt.
Right.
You need a vehicle to get you to A to B.
Yeah.
Get something you like. Like, don't go right away and get yourself a Benz, but get yourself a new car, right? If you can afford it. If you're making this much money, and don't be afraid to pay it, because what that automatically does is make you come to work maybe an hour earlier.
Right.
Allows you to stay an hour later.
Yeah.
If don't play complacent, then you have nothing to push against you. So.
Buy things that can allow you to make more money. Right, like enable you to work. Like buy work boots, buy a truck, buy something that allows you to go buy your own clippers,
right,
or stuff like that, right, so that you have the freedom to go work.
Right. Right. So smart investments on anything. Get yourself that apartment. Like, don't play it too safe and have a broke mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Get the things that are achievable, but you have to look at your numbers and your finance. What am I making weekly? What am I making monthly?
Right.
Is this a little bit nervous for you to invest into?
Right.
Put yourself into situations that make you nervous, because if you have the skill set and you have the passion to do what you want to do, you're never going to fail.
Right.
All it's going to do is motivate you to do a little bit more and work harder than you were doing before. Right. Dumb investments would be like you're not really doing anything and you buy jewelry at a, on layaway or something like that, right? And you're paying something a cost that has no value, and you're just trying to figure out what to do and putting yourself in with bad credit. Right. But if you got a career, you got a job, how do you advance in that job? Put those things behind you. Mm-hmm. So mine was it was a force of nature. Right. It was a God-given gift. It was whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? It was something that was placed in my life that forced me to get out of my comfort zone. Right. My sense of, insecurities, my low self-esteem, wherever I was right there, forced me to say, oh, wow, this is real. Right. But having loving people around me to be like, yo, here's an opportunity to do something and taking advantage. So I did the hardest thing was like get away from my son at such a young age to try something new. Right. And then get into a new environment, stay with my dad, see what that was, living in the city, working in the city, going to school, getting into a barbershop. And even in the barbershop, meeting a buddy of mine who owned a record label called Raucous. It was associated with Raucous Records. It was called the Lyricist Lounge. And they had a television show on MTV. It was like comedy skits. We worked together. A guy named Wordsworth. You met him before. He was an actor on the show. That's how we built our relationship. Okay. So I started interning for them, and I thought, wow, this is awesome. Like going to all these parties, holding cameras. I was working for free. I was doing intern stuff. Well, all those lessons that I did being an intern working with a company, when I came back and moved to Florida, and was time to, get those young 20s out my way. I was going back and forth, visiting my son, making, and learning about myself, which was most important, was when I came here, I took all those skill sets of like working with a music company as well as cutting hair. Mm-hmm. And then I started to run my business I started the process of opening my business like you would open up a record label. Right. So the way I did guerrilla marketing and promotion is how I started developing Twincutz. So like the street team motion, when I was on 42nd Street, passing out flyers to go to BB King's for like to see Big Daddy Kane perform and
So everyone knows what 42nd Street.
42nd Street's in Times Square, Manhattan.
Times Square, right? Center of the universe.
Yeah. Right. So for sure. So it's like they got these places, but I was all over the city doing that. I was handing stuff out. We're not in the like take a picture and here's my Instagram and let me get a lot of likes. Right. When I was a barber, I was going to Kinko's, printing my name and number down on paper, light pink, pastel blue, yellow, white, and cutting them into 12 squares and actually walking up to people and having to give them cards. I couldn't say, this is how my work looks. We didn't have digital cameras.
Now, what do you think the impact of that was on you as a communicator versus people now? Because so many people start a business now, it's all online. Right.
I think it's a benefit to both. I think some of it takes away the interaction and relationships with people. So you're building from a distance. You can make a lot of money, but at the same time, when you interact with people, you don't know how to build. And I think some of the greatest success comes from relationships. Right. It's who you know. You can have a million people like your post, but it's the one person who's willing to spend for your worth. Right. So who are you looking to really attract? Yeah. And I think the best way to do it is incorporating both. Now, my interaction of talking people to get somebody into my barber chair when I first started by giving them a business card, can you cut hair? Can you fade good? I'd have to answer all those questions, and I had to show and prove. Now it's a little easier. Hey, look at my Instagram. Oh, damn, you do a good job. Right. I'll sit with you.
Instead of having blind trust, like, here you go. Yeah, go ahead.
It changes. Right. It changes. And I appreciate that, hey, I have to prove to you that I got to be good at what I do. And then so when times change and I moved here, I started doing nightclub promotion. I did a open mic back in the day called the Lyricist Lounge South. Yeah. Early on when I moved here, then I started doing nightclubs downtown. It was like club level back in the day. I used to do a Saturday night party. Right. And I funded myself. So as I moved here, I sat in a barbershop with a plan for 5 years to open up my barbershop. I would meet people, relationships again. Met a guy, he was a DJ from New York.
Yeah.
We talked. We said, yo, you know what? There's a lot of like poets and rappers and everybody out here who needs a platform. I came from a company that was doing open mics and platforms and live performances, and we did an open mic, created big success from that. What I was doing was cutting the people behind my chair, making money from them cutting behind my chair. And then they were coming to my event and paying $5 to $10 at the door. So I was doubling up on my clientele as I was expanding my network. Then I had this huge network and brought that network to downtown Fort Myers, and where I came up with the name Twincutz Enterprise. Okay. So then I was all about marketing and brand recognition. So I have it on my arm. That was the font. Right. So I'm a big believer of font. You look at McDonald's, you know right away. You look at the O and Oreo, you look at the R and Reese's.
And where did Twin City come from?
Twincutz. Well,
I'm sorry, Twincutz.
Yeah, people call me Twin. Right. That was just my nickname, and I cut hair, so it was just Twincutz.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So then it was Twincutz Enterprise. It was Twincutz Entertainment. Yeah. And I was like, okay, you could cut records, you could cut hair, you could do. So it was just, it kind of blended in. So I would have Twincutz Enterprise all on the windows, and everyone knew me as this dope barber that was cutting hair, and they knew my club. So when it was time for me to open up my shop, all I did was save, doubling up on both, because I was like, yo, I got to open up my own business. And then I took the name recognition and the name brand, and I put it on my first storefront. So then when people came by, it was like, yo, that's the place that we go to the club at, and we know he's a barber. And it almost allowed a lot more easier early success when I started back in 2010, when like the recession was tough, and I was like, you're not gonna be successful. But I built up enough clientele that even if I didn't have any barbers working with me at the beginning, I was able to cover my bills.
That's good. So did you buy the building or you rented the building?
I wish I had to start from somewhere.
It's tough to buy a building now.
Yeah, it's very tough to buy a building now. If I could go back, there's a lot of moves I could have done back then that I look at now, and especially with the real estate market here in Southwest Florida, with that club money, that I could have really done some smart moves that I've learned now.
Hindsight's 2020.
The reality is, at least I didn't do dumb shit with my money. I put money towards 2 barbershops and my home.
So this is a really good point that you brought up to me before we started talking here, and I'm really excited to get to it. So many sound bites in there, and I think that the first one that I want listeners, especially the young people, to take away was you weren't looking to have a prayer answered when you had your son, right? But it might have been the answer to a prayer that you needed.
Yes.
Right? To straighten you out and to get you on the right path and to motivate you, right? And it changed you as a person, set you on the right path, right? And then you were talking about the constant investment. You and I were talking about Nike, how when Nike started, Nike was selling $8 million in shoes a year.
Right.
The guy was broke. He couldn't bring himself to a restaurant because every single dollar went in to his business.
Right.
Right. So you were working 2 jobs. You're trying to get the bank account going to start not just 1, but 2 shops. Yeah. Right off the bat. Can you talk about that investment and the next 10 years or 11 years of investment from there?
Yeah, for sure. So like my first year, I have 7 locations now, presently. But when I started in 2010, I opened up my first one. My second one was in 2013. It wasn't until 2 years ago I started paying myself as a business owner. Yeah. So for 10 years of me being in business, I cut hair like I didn't own anything. So I paid my food, my movies, and I got a daughter as well. So it's like taking care of my daughter. She's 9 years old. My son everything I did, I was paying with money working behind the chair, even though there was money coming in from the business. What I was doing was always stacking my money, preparing for other investments to create. Yeah. And that's allowed me to put money towards my house and also started up my second business. A reality check for me was when it was time for me to open my second business, was I went to the bank and I wanted a $5,000 loan to get some chairs. Yeah. And, I have at that time like $2,000 in my pocket rolled up. Right. But they don't know that. Yeah. And they're asking me for, we don't see the type of money that you're making. Right. As a barber. Right. And I learned at that moment, as a cash business, I said, wow, I'm doing something wrong. Yeah. I have to make sure that I'm showing everything and doing everything correct. So it really changed my mindset, knowing that no matter how much money that you make, if you're not really doing it properly as far as getting the right accountant and when you're young, like money was new to me. Yeah. So even from the time I was doing clubs, like I said, if I could go back hindsight make some changes when I was
And the system
starting
doesn't
the
teach you
club.
that.
No,
The system doesn't teach you that.
not at all. Not me. I mean, I haven't done that algebra problem since algebra days, right? I don't know. I didn't do it then. I cheated then.
Yeah.
To pass, but I didn't like all that stuff. I needed to know how to live life, and those weren't life lessons. But I also believe that life lessons are from mistakes that you make trying.
Well, yeah. Most
right?
definitely.
So just do it. Like I appreciate the fact that I never had a mentor. I made money. I could look back and say, damn, I could have thrown money on houses, got mortgages, rented them out, and Airbnb right now, be a millionaire. But again, I didn't do dumb shit.
Yeah.
I was making great money in the clubs, still drove my little old Scion car, could have had a Mercedes while other promoters were competing against me at the time, learning from what I was doing.
Right.
They were going on Vegas trips, and I was driving the same car, and all I kept doing was stacking.
Yeah.
And without a bank loan, was able to get my first business going.
That's beautiful.
And then I was able to, go into my second business, had some money on the side, put it towards my second business. And it was relationships, again, because my marketing strategies for the first 3 years of Twincutz, starting with one, just me by myself, got 6 solid barbers, expanded into 7 to 8 chairs in that same barbershop, was cutting the whole FGCU team.
That's
basketball,
awesome.
soccer, football. They started telling everybody in school. Everybody started to see me.
Yeah.
They go to that tournament. They win the tournament, Dunk City.
I was just going to say, were you cutting
I
that
was
that
the
yet?
barber of the Dunk
Wow,
City.
that's
I
awesome.
cut the whole entire roster. Actually, I had an NCAA season assist photo that I cut the center of. I put an eagle on his head with a basketball and put my arm next to him, and he shared it. And they sent me a message that they had to remove his name from it.
Wow.
And but it didn't matter because.
That's
it
preparation
blew up.
meets opportunity right
Right,
there,
so
right?
even they took it down and went
luck.
that way, right? So I wanted to open up. My very first time I ever wanted to open up a shop was in the Gulf Coast Town Center, and they wouldn't even answer my phone call. Oh, we have several shops. There was no one to speak to.
Right.
Then I opened up my first shop on 6 Mile Cypress in Colonial. 3 years later, I built a relationship. I'm cutting everybody in FGCU. I called them up about 3 years later because I said, they just became Dunk City.
Yeah.
Someone's going to open up a barbershop across that college.
Oh, yeah.
I have to do it because I rather become my own competition.
Oh, definitely.
We established Twincutz in the shop locally. So now we have all the local business coming, plus the college kids. If I open here, all the college kids are going to go there, but I'm still going to sustain a successful business because we have the local community behind me at the first location.
Right.
Call up Gulf Coast Town Center. Oh, yeah, are you looking to move? I said, no, I'm looking to expand. He said, okay, I'll meet you at this unit. So it went from not even getting a phone call to saying developing that relationship. And I sent them an email with a picture of me with all the Dunk City kids.
That's beautiful.
Taking a picture like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right? And they thought it was great. Day one, opened up in the Gulf Coast Town Center, 10 barbers starting. First day, line out the door to come in there. Every single student and basketball player was in there taking pictures and has shared my information on Twitter.
Yeah.
So just off, again, going off of relationships was very strong with those kids and building it up.
Yeah.
And then, a few years after that, a business partner that owned the nightclub downtown, his name's Danny. He was the owner of Level. Was like, what are we trying to do, man? You look like you got an awesome thing going on. I'm like, it's a lot. I don't have too much time. All this going back and forth. It's like, well, maybe I can help you. Make you look at it different. Maybe I can help you look how we can scale this business because this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
We got together. There was a good relationship, a good trust over there. We jumped into a business partners together and we developed our third business. And within 6 years, we opened up 5 more businesses together. So on top of that, we got 7 businesses.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Man.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
So teams are just as important as doing it individual. I look in the future that I would love to have 100 Twincutz at a low percentage than owning 7 of them at 100% and not having any time. Time is very important for me.
Yes. The way you spoke earlier, you kind of put out that self-discipline for you was big. It's how you kind of got to where you are now, but that is challenging. How would you encourage your listeners?
Man, you have to have a why.
Yeah.
So mine was a given why. My son was my why. But a why could be anything. You want a yacht. It could be your why. It could be materialistic. It's not default what your whys are, but you have to find what your why is. The second thing is you got to find your inspiration.
Right.
Right? What inspires you? When I go to work, I still cut hair today. I'm going to work after this podcast to cut hair. Not because I have to anymore.
Right.
The days of me going to work working the day before Christmas, Thanksgiving, and paying all my bills, cutting hair has changed. I've developed streams of income where it's not a necessity for me to go to work. So I kind of work on my hours now. I do my own appointments, but I love the passion of cutting hair. I can do this the rest of my life.
That's beautiful.
Cutting hair. Even if I lost all my businesses, which helped me take risks, the worst thing that could ever happen to me is I get behind a barber chair and cut hair, which I don't mind at all.
Because you have a trade to fall back on.
Right, and I enjoy doing it, and I love doing it, and it's like art to me. So for those that are out there, if you're not doing your traditional adaptive way of learning in school, if you're creative or any type of technical skill that you may want to get into, find something that you love to do. Once you figure that out, then how can you become the best at it?
Yeah.
And that was another thing that was important for me as a barber was your time is limited.
Yeah.
You know, we all get old.
Yeah.
We've all seen the movie Barbershop, right?
Yep,
I didn't want to be Cedric the Entertainer. I didn't want to be 60 years old in a barbershop talking about back in my day, how great I was. You know, we didn't touch base of like, you know, the education and the platform. I travel around the whole entire world now, teaching and educating on stages and platforms and working at, you know, events and football events. I've done all of that. All of that doesn't matter when you get old. Right. I'll be 60 years old and say, a guy's not going to come in, a kid's not going to come in and say, look at me and look at the young barber. He's going to see old and young.
Right.
He might sit with, most of the time he's going to sit with the young barber, which is going to mean my clientele is going to start to drop anyway.
Right.
He might have made a mistake sitting with the young barber over me. But at the end of the day, that's just the reality of it. It's going to be like, he's the old guy. He's not going to look at me and say, oh, wow, this guy was a teacher at Paul Mitchell. He's a Andis educator. He's traveling around the world. He's just going to say, yo, he's an old barber.
Yeah.
And then my body breaks down a little bit. My biggest fear was pushing carts at Publix at an old man because I didn't want to. So whatever you want to do, if I was a plumber, I want to build a relationship, become the best barber. I want to be a district manager plumber. I want to be like, where can I start and what's my goal? So within hair, getting behind a chair, understanding how it was to be very busy, doing the mistakes. So because like I made all those mistakes. I understood that coming in late, leaving early, taking smoke breaks, doing certain things affected my business, right? As I got older, I understood that you have to be very professional. It's not all about talent. Talent is very strong, but the relationship you built with your client, 20 years, 2 barbers, is very important. That's a residual income for you. Right. So we talk about the basic necessities. You have driving, food, and living. If you can cover those, or transportation, food, and living. If you can cover those 3 things, you can do anything that you want.
Definitely.
So if I get 10 clients to see me every single week, if I cut you every week and you give me $25-$30 for every week for a haircut, right? Every month, you could be my water bill. You could be my light bill. I get 3 more guys that could be my rent. 4 more. If I could get 15 people to see me every single week, weekly, 4 times a month, I can cover those three basic necessities. Add a couple of more people, maybe my insurance and a few other things. Say about 17 to 20, which is very achievable because when you work in a barbershop, it's busy on the weekend. And a lot of guys can cut 15 to 20 people within a little bit of time every single week. So you got to build a relationship with the guys that see you every single week. Once you get those 3 things, what do you want to do next with your life? Right? You could buy clothes, you could look flashy, you could go out, you could spend money, or you could put it towards other things. You can put it towards getting a new shop or traveling, whatever you want to do. Keep adding on. Look at your numbers, and that will allow you to progress and grow. So any trade school or any trade that you have, I think you should look at it that way. Like, okay, how can I become the best? Step 1, level 1. Once you've maxed that out and become great at that, where do you put yourself to get to the next level?
I like that. Now talk to the listeners about the competitions, the barber competitions.
Like me competing, like barber battles and stuff. So I took that journey probably in 2011. So I was on World Star Hip Hop in like 2010, 2011. There was a ad that they were doing like barber competitions. It was so inspiring. It was like, wow, this is really cool. I'm going to do this. And they were doing one in New York. And I think there was one in West Palm Beach locally. Drove out there. I saw it. It's like, we're not used to this. And this is where social media and the power of social media is good. By paying attention to that was different than when I was growing up. The only way to get better at being a barber was the guy who was better than me in the barbershop. I didn't only know. I couldn't see how people cut in LA and in London and Toronto and other parts
you had no
of the
pulse on the
country.
competition. Other
I
than
had
what
no
was in front of
idea.
you.
So now we had an option to see that. Now they're doing these competitions.
Right.
And I went out there. And the first competition I saw was in New York. And I'm like, that's a home team. Like, I could go there. I could stay with my dad. I don't got to worry about a hotel and compete. And I jumped in the ring and I did it. I lost. I was against some of the best. I did about 3 competitions at that time. And I lost all 3 of them. But what I did was I built name recognition. And I think never be afraid to lose.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that.
Because
It's good.
somebody from the outside can make fun of the guy who lost the fist fight.
Right.
But the guy who beat up the guy who fought back will always have respect over him more than the guy from the outside being a critic.
Right.
Who was even afraid to get into the ring.
That was like the Lower East Side, Manhattan
Yeah.
version of Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech. Teddy Roosevelt has a famous speech where it's the man in the arena, the spectator. There's no value or no weight in his opinion on the man that's actually in the arena.
Right.
So,
and I think most people are so afraid to get into that ring.
That's even better that you didn't even know that. So you're on par with Teddy Roosevelt.
That was amazing. Right? Hey, listen, to put my name up with great thinkers and great minds. But I always said that, and I got a lot of respect that way, right? And people recognize my face. So these barbers that were winning the competition, they're doing amazing things right now.
Right.
I started going to these trade shows. We have a big one in Orlando called Orlando Premiere. I go to Orlando Premiere. One of the judges that was at the trade show is on stage educating and teaching how to do haircuts.
Right.
I'm buying my clippers. I asked the guy at the front of at the salesman at the booth. I'm like, hey, I'm just curious. Like, what they're doing is pretty dope. What's the process? How do you get to do that? That's another thing. Feel free to humble yourself and ask questions, right? Don't walk in there like with expectations.
Right.
Before I even ask that question, I go to a hair show. I would watch. We're doing a class at 2 o'clock. I'd sit in front of the class. I'd raise my hand, ask question. I'd buy clippers. I would see people on social media. They had little small booths. I'd walk around the booths. I'd buy a comb from this guy. I'd buy a comb from that guy. Hey, I've seen your work. It's amazing.
Right.
Recognizing I support you. I appreciate what you're doing. The respect comes back.
Right.
The guy was like, yo, you should speak to this lady right over there. She's the one you want to talk to. I spoke to her, and she was like, or kind of like, I hear the story all the time, but being genuine and trying to figure out what to do, she was like, well, here's my business card.
Yeah.
Can you send me your license, a resume, and an uncut video of you cutting hair? By the time I walked out the door, I always kept my license and a little bit of my bio on my phone. I sent it to her. Sent her a message, said, hey, I'll get a video for you. Called up the local college out here, called them up, said, do you mind if I do a 40-minute clipper cutting class?
Yeah.
Recorded it, sent it over to her. She gave me an audition on stage. I get on stage, get one of my barbers cut his hair. The guy who's the lead educator of the company was a judge at the barber battle.
Wow.
She's like, yeah, this guy, Kenny Duncan's he's a very huge inspiration for me in the industry. He's been doing it for a long time.
Right.
She's like, I mentioned your name, but when you said Twincutz, he goes, oh yeah, I seen him. He's a good dude. He's like, he's always at the battles. He's always asking questions.
Yeah.
He's sitting there and he's watching me do it.
Yeah.
He was the one who was like, he's green, but he's got potential.
Yeah.
That relationship, getting in that ring, losing, having respect for my work, seeing me out there ask questions was the same person who put me in to get me on stage.
That's amazing.
To be a part of this event. Where a lot of guys who won are not even on the same platform getting paid by these major companies. Where I lost and I'm getting paid by a major company to travel around the world now.
That's beautiful.
So there's a theme that you keep touching on, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. How do you feel about luck?
Oh, man, luck. Oh, man. Wow.
So let me tell you why I asked that. So you've brought up several instances where you put yourself in a situation where you got lucky, but you were prepared to get lucky.
Yeah.
Right.
You were always prepared. You had the resume and the phone. Right.
Preparation. So I think opportunity more than luck. I don't know if it's luck. Luck is like maybe playing the lottery and hitting for $1 million, or like on a scratch ticket, which I suck at. Two things I'm guess lucky or prepared for opportunity in life and business.
Yeah.
But I suck kind of at luck because if I bet on the sports team, they're losing. Doesn't matter. Anytime I put money down on a fighter, they lose, a scratch ticket, slot machine. I don't win at gambling at all. But being prepared for opportunity, which we would consider maybe a lucky opportunity, but I don't know if it's lucky because if you work towards that goal. I remember the first time I went to that trade show, I went back home and I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to try by next year to get myself an opportunity to do this. So wherever I could go and speak to the right people to recognize who I was, validated, some type of relationship was to be, it's all about who you know.
So it's a P word.
The P.
Persistent.
Persistent.
Yes.
So anybody that's ever heard me speak, any youth that we talk to or anything like that, the exact equation that I tell them is luck equals preparedness meets opportunity.
Right.
It's preparedness and opportunity. There is no such thing as
Say
luck.
that one more time?
You can't get luck. So luck equals preparedness plus opportunity. Right? You got to be prepared to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes. That's how you get lucky.
I believe there's opportunity around us all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like every day, which we call luck. I think we all have equal opportunity for luck.
Right.
I think it's the mindset and the preparation.
Yeah.
So the first is, are you prepared at what you're doing? Like, think a little bit ahead. Like, I don't know why I kept my license on my phone. I did it. Who knew? When I was going around the trade show, I had an iPad. I had my 5 photos on it. One, I don't even like doing designs. I'm an artist. I like doing designs on my own time. But my first photo was that FGCU Eagle. When I show somebody, hello, I like your work. I'm a barber too, and I have a shop in Fort Myers. And I show them, it's like, yo, that's amazing.
Right.
And then I scanned through, and I didn't show them a bunch of them. It's like, yo, you're a good barber. And then they would follow me back, and we'd start building up a relationship. So there was a form of preparation there. But then the mindset is walk into every opportunity with balance.
Yeah.
If you're always so high, when things crash, you're very hard on yourself.
Yeah.
But when you're always walking around low, you always miss out on the opportunity.
Right.
And you're not willing to take the risk. You overlook it. You're too. So I walk in with every situation where balance. I'm going to take the good with the bad with the good. When things are going great, expect there's going to be a bump. When things are going really down, man, there's something great about to happen. Just ride through it and take it for what it is, because none of it's going to do my worst fear to me, and that would probably be like being homeless and not having anything. I'm like, no matter what happens in my life, I'm not built to be that way. And once I understood that I'll always do something. Maybe it might not be the most ideal situation, but I'll always do something that I love to keep me out of that type of gutter.
What's the average amount of guys you have at each barbershop?
Oh man, we have 10 shares at each shop, so we generally stay around 80 to 85% full collectively at each shop.
How do you manage everyone talks about the labor shortage, and it's hard to find good help, right?
Yes.
So how do you manage that? Huge
turnover, right? So it's expected. People always have dreams to open up their own business. You lose people that way. People just have looking for the better opportunity. Some people outgrow the system. Just so many things that happen. The most important thing is just to keep focusing on the business and the brand, and keep putting it out there, and then people will always come. So don't worry about the person. And going back to that mindset, what helped me develop that mindset was owning my first business. When somebody would quit, I thought the world was going to end. When the AC broke, I was like, oh my God, I'm not prepared to pay $5,000 on the business, on the new AC. It was like, what am I doing? Now it's like when things happen, it's expected. What's the solution? More than the problem. That helped me all throughout life. Like I looked at it as like things happen. It's a saying that when I was, when we did that thing, I was going through health issues, right? And I had this mindset that says, be better, not bitter. Sit down and sit on stuff you have no control over, or look at it, we're natural, be pissed off about the situation for a second, but what do I have to do next? If I waste time trying to ask questions why something happened, then looking at like what needs to be done to resolve this situation.
You can't control what happened to you, but you can control how you react.
Yes.
Right.
Now, is your dad still around?
My father's still around, yeah. So my son moved to New York in 2 months ago, September 1st.
Okay.
So he has no kids. He was working with me. He graduated from school as barber school. He worked in my shops, built up a skill set. And we just sat down and I'm like, yo, man, why don't you just move to New York? You always ask me about it. You're kind of like a New Yorker in a way. You like all the sports teams. You grew up, but you're born here.
Right.
And I'm like, just go out there. You got nothing to lose. Even if you dislike it, what's the worst you could say is, hey, I lived in New York for a year. It's different than me. I always had you. And then I had my daughter. I'm always had to make something and be stationary and create opportunities around me where you're at an age and you have no responsibility. You got a skill set and you got the great surrounding that you could be in New York for a couple of years, you could move to Chicago, you could move to Atlanta, you could go to LA, you can chase a lot of things. So do it. The worst thing that could ever happen is you could come back to Fort Myers and you have I've created stability for you to always fall back on over here.
Right.
And that was the most important thing that I ever wanted to do, was have stability for my kids.
So with kids and multiple business, is there ever a time when the balance become a challenge?
I think there's a sense of overwhelming that can happen naturally, right? Like I think through time and experience and learning how to challenge it and trying to tell myself that mindset of just keeping balance, that when things become a little bit overwhelming, to accept the change and not let it just destroy me. I'm human, so there's not, I'm not going to say that I just walk around with a smile and things don't bother me all the time. You do think about it, but I try to step out of the small box and look at the bigger picture.
I like that. Now, for individuals that want to find you and see you work, what does that look like? So
2 things. If you're interested in the area and you're interested in becoming a barber, we do have a shadowing program where you can stop into any Twincutz. You go to twincutz.com. That's with a Z, TWINCUTZ .com. That will show all the businesses, how they look and where they're located. And then I have my own personal online virtual academy.
Okay.
Called SeanCaseyAcademy.com, which was designed for students, for cosmetologists that are learning to do more short length haircuts and barbering techniques.
Okay.
And
videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I have several walkthrough haircuts on that.
Okay.
And then I also have a masterclass on business, how to start a barbershop, how to hire for a barbershop, and how to scale a barbershop.
Okay.
So I do have that academy. It's not credited, but it's more like continuing education, which is kind of amazing.
You get to learn directly from somebody who did it, right?
Right. So you can buy Mannequin online, stop, pause, and learn. There's a girl right now that I knew who just messaged me. I have it, show you the message a little bit later, but she... During COVID, her husband couldn't get a haircut. She had to learn how to cut his beard. She was messaging me saying, I'm watching your videos and I'm learning how to do a beard. And she's giving me a heads up. She just said just yesterday, she says, my husband was just in this Netflix show. Man, I can't think of the name. And she screenshots a picture of the beard and says, I did his beard.
Wow.
For this show.
Wow.
And I've learned from you. And she's not a barber or anything, but she learned how to cut his hair through COVID by watching my videos.
That's amazing.
So anybody can achieve it, right?
I love that, man.
Yeah.
You're like the Alex Hormozy of hair.
Right,
you know who that is?
Right. No, I don't.
He did the same thing. He did the same thing with gyms.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Will you still be doing more competitions, barber competitions?
So I haven't, it's like LeBron doing the slam dunk competition. There's no value for him to do it anymore. I respect it, right? So when I was in at the startup stages, I did it.
Right.
A lot of times people ask me to judge it. I'm not a fan of judging it either because there's such amazing barbers that do competitions and I'm like, I can't even do that. Who am I to judge it? I like giving more experience and I like doing mentorship. So when people hire me and travel around, it's more for educational purposes. How can I show you how to do something?
Right.
Some of the things we were talking about in that detention center that day is like the overlooking people. Look, kids just need a how-to. Yeah. And people overlook. You can walk in and talk about how great you are. Hey, I'm Sean Casey. I own 7 shops. I own this. I do that. I travel around. I cut celebrities. I do everything. And then they, wow, he's amazing. And then I leave the room and it's like, how do I start?
What did you leave them with?
How do you start? And I think that's a missing aspect for most kids. And that's where I think
they see the end game, but they don't see the road there.
True. So my niche is, even with I have a strong following on social media and I upload videos every day pretty much on the very basics. There are people out there that show you how to do amazing designs for the advanced barber. Mine is for the kids are just, hey, let me show you how to turn on a clipper. Right. You may not think about it. I might pick on a clipper, turn it on, do this, make the adjustment, spray, angle you to the right light, everything, start the haircut and say, okay, step 1, do your design. Right. That whole process of starting the clipper, finding the light, all those that we overlook because we do it on an everyday we overlook it. Yeah. That's valuable information for somebody wanting to learn how to do something. Right. So I target that audience by showing the very beginning steps on how to do something.
So you have barbers now that try to get into those competitions or not?
All day, yeah. There's a few amazing ones. I think it's an amazing opportunity all around for inspiration and getting around it. I still as a spectator, I go to these events. If I'm hired to be a part of it or teach at them, I'm always I'm always excited to be a part of it. I think anybody that kind of crosses that bridge and gets into like these companies and stuff, rarely are they going back and they're doing those competitions.
It's incredible how at the beginning of the conversation, you talked about how complacent you were to just do the bare minimum. And now you seek opportunities to see where you are in the competition and elevate above it.
For sure.
It's an awesome transformation.
And even for me, I'm a teacher. Like, think about it. I got held back in school. I had a teacher in third grade say, sixth grade. So what are you doing in this class?
Yeah.
Did you see what you did? Because like my grandparents at one time had a teacher meeting and say, maybe his mind's not stimulated. Let's try him in this class. I went to this class and she in front of the whole class was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like, in a way saying like you're dumb.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But now I'm a teacher.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm teaching about things that I love and being passionate. I would never let a child feel that way. That's important. Like, you can't do that. Where's that person coming from?
Right.
Find that inspiration. And that's the tough part about being a teacher, is where those skill sets. And even for myself, I'm always a student. Pretty much every year I've traveled and I got continuing education in Amsterdam, in Rome, in London, Toronto.
Yeah.
That I paid on my own dime, even though I get paid to travel around to teach people. If I see you and you know how to do a technique that I really want to learn and I got a respect for it, I take a vacation and learn because I love to travel. So I'm like, wow, I never been to Toronto or I never been to Amsterdam before, but this educator is amazing in Amsterdam.
It's
so
not
I make
time
a
off.
vacation.
It's just it's redirecting your attention to becoming better in a different way.
So I make a vacation and education at the same time. So that's how I treat myself, to keep expanding my mind, and that brings it back to what I can offer to the kids on my end, or students, or even advanced learners, or whatever.
Bet your bank account looks a little different than the teacher that told you were dumb too.
We could definitely say that.
Now, for the listeners, creative individuals that are creative but procrastinate, what would you say to them?
Procrastination, man, is you have to develop a system.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. It's like the process of making your bed every day, right? Like, you don't want to do it, but once you start doing it, it becomes a habit. The day you stop, 2 days, and all of a sudden your room's messy again.
Right.
It's very difficult to find procrastination, but you got to start small.
Right.
You know, if you're a procrastinator and you say, hey, I want to have a successful mindset and I want to do this and I want to be rich, you have to do the levels.
Yeah.
Find the small things in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Start there. Develop a system for yourself. And then go from that and start taking on new things. And it goes back to applying that pressure to yourself. If you add too much pressure, you get discouraged. So even if it's just getting out of bed at an earlier time and making your bed and maybe exercising for 40 minutes, doesn't matter what you do, just start something small and get in that system. Next thing you know, you're eating a little bit better. Next thing you know, you have the energy to try and work at this job. Next thing you know, you've learned this skill set. Now you can apply it towards something else. Just getting a routine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to race against anybody else's time clock. Right? Just work on your own time clock, but you got to start somewhere.
I like that.
Only compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not anybody else.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so in going out, you know, and I know we got introverts that listen to the show as well, that are creative, that want to go into something, but that trait kind of keeps them in a space. What would you say to an introvert?
Man, I'm an introvert extrovert.
Yeah,
For sure.
Well, like from how you talked, you know, I kind of figured you left from that introvert state.
I'm
and
super
you just,
shy and introvert. I think that's why I surrounded myself with the kids that I did when I was younger. I was a very shy. Like, I'd get in and I'd just nervous and I stay quiet. And I still like that. I like to eat by myself. I ate breakfast before I came here by myself.
Yeah.
I travel.
Yeah.
A lot of times I travel alone. I used to go to parties alone. I'm the same time as I can start a conversation, but a lot of times I have a great time just being quiet. But also my job, cutting hair since I was 19, and especially when I was a busy barber,
Right.
You got to talk.
when I cut 15 to 20 people every day, there was a period of my life that now I cut like 8 people a day. It's a busy day, 8 to 10 people. I'm like, oh, I'm going to cut too much today.
Yeah.
Times have changed, right? But those early days of building a clientele, 19 to 25 people in one day,
Yeah.
20 different conversations every half hour on the hour.
Yeah.
I'm always talking.
Yeah.
I'm home. I don't want to talk anymore. Right? When I'm on
Want
stage, I got to
quiet.
speak for 3 hours and on the stage until I'm going to dinner. It's like, hey, you want to go grab food? Like, people invite me. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back to the hotel.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually going to a restaurant and I just don't want to talk to anybody.
Right.
So being an introvert's okay. Just use your introvert time wisely. Like, use time to think.
Yeah.
Right? What do you want to do? Develop that. But also know that you have to it goes back to building relationships.
Yeah.
Know the right person to speak to.
Yeah.
Start with the simple, hey, how are you doing? Make it be a strong listener. Speak with confidence, but also listen like you're ignorant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love it.
You can take something from everybody.
Yeah. This is
Have
beautiful.
you read Jordan Peterson?
No, I don't even.
Man, I got like a list of people that
I would
like,
love to
you
hear
are
it. Please share that.
you are preaching everything that they say.
Hey,
Please
man.
share that to me, man. I can't, but I have my mind. The problem with me reading is I read.
He says always assume somebody doesn't. Somebody that you're talking to knows something you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude, this was a beautiful conversation, man. I wish we had more time.
Yeah,
Because
we
the
can do this all day.
conversation is amazing. You definitely got to come back on the show.
Yeah,
you got
we
to
didn't
come
even
back
touch the health issues.
I
and
know.
Stuff, so we can get into that as well.
Definitely. So, I promise you guys, I don't want to take away from my different stations that have the slots, and I know I'm pushing it over the slot right now, but really, man, this conversation was beautiful. I promise you guys, you definitely will hear more from Mr. Sean Casey. We'll have him back on the show to talk more, because we definitely want to dive into that, mental health and all that other stuff, man, and just the reason we do what we do. And you beat it, man.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I know we didn't go into this, man, but my guy here have beat something major that a lot of people have lost that fight to. You know what? Get him a teaser. Just get him a teaser on that.
We're talking about right before that when we did that we were spoken in the detention center.
Yeah.
That was on a Thursday.
Right.
I just did my 6th treatment of chemotherapy on Wednesday.
Yes.
And came in.
Yes.
I had no eyebrows, no beard,
That's
nothing.
true.
I was the color gray.
Yeah.
And I was going in there and I was talking with people. So I had that mindset of be better.
Yeah.
Be better, not bitter.
Right.
I carried that through that stage, and it was allowed me to push through some of the darkest times. Through that journey, allowed me to see things at a level, that appreciates the now.
Yes.
Don't expect tomorrow.
Right.
But build for tomorrow.
Yes. Guys, listen, guys, I really want, we wanted to create this story today. We did. You guys heard it from Mr. Casey. I promise you guys, you definitely will be getting a chance to listen to him dive into that story and what that journey was like. Mr. Casey, man, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having so much. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate that. Man. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to. We'll definitely have a part 2. I enjoy it, man.
Definitely, man. And there you guys have it. Thank you for staying tuned right here, EHAS Club, where we create stories, and you guys heard it. We just created a story from the man himself, the owner of Twincutz Barber, Mr. Sean Casey.
Thanks for tuning in and downloading this episode of Stories to Create. We appreciate you being part of this growing community of storytellers and listeners. If today's conversation inspired you, please share the show with friends, family, or anyone who could use a little motivation in their journey. A special thank you to our sponsors, EHAS Organization, Cornell Bunting LLC, and Nostril Cheese Chase for supporting the mission and making this podcast possible. To learn more about our work, upcoming projects, and how you can get involved, be sure to visit www.hissinggorge and www.cornellbunting.com. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and remember, your story has power.